Hello and welcome back to another episode of Parts Talk. Nazeem Rampartab joins our show today as he takes us through his life journey on being a mechanic, a parts manager, a service manager, and now a senior manager of after sales and service operations. Naz gives us his insight and the evolution that the dealership environment has underwent. Please don't forget to like, share, and download this episode. You will find the full video of this episode on my YouTube channel, Parts Manager Professional. If you'd like to hear more interviews like this, you can do so by making a donation using the information in the description box on how to do so. Let's begin. Naz, welcome to Parts Talk. Glad you could take this opportunity to join me. Well, it's not such short notice, but at the same time, I know you're a very busy individual, taking care of the family, taking care of business, taking care of a lot of things. So, but first and foremost, please introduce yourself. Let us know exactly who the man is.
Well, the man is Nazeem Rampartab is the name they call it. I go by Naz. Been in the industry, in automotive industry, parts, service, sales since about 28 years now. So since I was 16. So it's been quite some time. Working with various manufacturers, independent shops, big box stores. So the experience behind my success of being where I am is from automotive industry.
Okay. And what capacity are you now?
Well, right now I am at a fixed operation management where it's parts, service, and sales.
Yes. We're gonna go deep into that for the time being.
Right.
But what I want to ask you is that how has operation changed since you started out at age 16? I know it's a very long time, but I'm trying to pick your brain to give us a overview.
It's changed tremendously. Just alone in the parts department side of it has changed tremendously from going from microfiche. If whoever's listening to this knows what a microfiche is, or look it up afterwards, they'll figure out what a microfiche is. Going from catalogs to microfiche to individual programs that are designed for individual stores, different manufacturers. Everybody came out with their own platform of dealing and handling with parts. So, I mean, in the overall perspective of it, yes, you're looking at a part. It has a part number attached to it. You order it. It goes to the manufacturer warehouse. It gets picked and pulled and brought to you. That aspect will always somewhat stay the same. Now, what's changed is how they do this and how more efficient they can be by doing these things, right? Because those are your basics. Someone has to order it, or something has to order it. And I know a lot of the ways now is everybody's going to the computer. It's a lot of, that's where the industry has shifted and changed, where a lot of the stuff has gone to computer setup, where it's not just someone walking around. Back in the day, it was someone walking around with a clipboard in their hand, looking at their shelf, and you're laughing because I know you did it too. And
of course, yes.
Of course. And you look at the numbers on the shelf, you see what you're missing, you write it down, you go back to your computer or your phone and you call it in. And a lot of times, a lot of these dealerships are only getting parts maybe once a week. Sometimes twice a week they would get parts. And that was a big thing. Nowadays, it's shifted to you get parts the same day. You get parts the next day. It's become so much faster to get these things. And that being said, that's where your costs come involved. You want the stuff faster, you pay more.
Yeah.
And that's where the industry has changed now, where parts used to be, not as expensive. Now every part on every manufacturer you look at has gone up in price. Whether it's the shipping, whether it's the whoever's making it for them, where it's coming from, everything has gone up in price. It was an eye-opener following this trend from where I've started to watch it and be in it and have to roll with it is what it's called, right? You have to roll with it. If you can't handle it, then you got to get out of the kitchen.
Yeah, yeah. And the only thing constant is change, because we have been through it, as as you know. Because when I tell people that we used to use a program called Lotus 123, they say, "What the hell is that?" Or
Yeah.
WordStar. No, it's Word Perfect. I know it's Word. I know you have Excel that has replaced Lotus 123. That's so basically, I understand exactly where you're coming from, right?
Now
Uh,
the two major parts platform that the majority of the dealerships have is what's called ADP, or now it's changed to CDK,
CDK Global, yeah.
right? And Reynolds and Reynolds. So those are your two major parts platform, where they've also moved into complete organization, where it's for sales now too. It's also for accounting now too. It's also for used car building. So it's not just for parts anymore. It's for the entire industry.
Yes, a complete dealer management system. As you said,
Right.
before everything was standalone, and then everything was done manually, going into the warehouse, counting things, and then you go back to Lotus, and then you input the information one by
Yeah.
one, and then every time something sells, someone has to go back and readjust the stock. But now everything is just a click of a button, and then it's all the same. But you also mentioned that dealers were getting parts like once a week or once a month, but in some parts of the region, some parts of the world, some people get parts once a month, every 6 months,
Right.
every 3 months. So it's very fortunate that if you're situated in a certain geographical location, you are either at an advantage or at a disadvantage where parts is concerned. So I'm glad I'm having this type of medium for individuals to understand exactly where the industry is coming from and where it is now. Because right now we live in a what do you call it now? A microwave society where everyone expects everything to be instant.
Instant.
Yeah.
Instant. You
So
see it on the computer, you see the picture of it, you can click on it, you can go to you cash out to your your cart, and then you go to your cart, you input your Visa number, your credit card number, and
yep,
the next thing you know, 2 days or one day,
yeah,
it's at your front door.
it's at your front door. Exactly. Yeah.
Right? So to have that at our fingertips now, yes, it's great. Everything is moving along quicker. You're able to fix your car, you get your car out, you get the customer's car out. At the same time, it all comes to a cost, right? And that's where this industry has gone to now, where it's very, very costly in terms of having the independent shops versus automotive dealerships, where they have the background, they have the overhead costs built into their budgets and whatnot and so forth. So to handle all of this shipping and non-shipping and
Mhm.
and backorder parts, and just going into it deeper and deeper, right? So it's a big aspect of looking at. It's not just parts. It's not just a small item. Oh, it's just this part. It isn't. It's bigger than that.
Yeah, definitely. But we're on the part side of it. How has it affected service? Because I know you're also a technician by trade. So how has the changes affected the service side?
The service side, I say customers have more ways of getting their vehicle fixed. So they have other options. They have other means of getting their vehicles taken care of and fixed. Of course, the first 3 years, if it's a new vehicle, you want to get it back to the dealership to cover your warranty. As a technician now, warranty jobs don't pay a lot as a CP, customer pay job. So parts has been a very gross profit aspect of it. So
Yeah.
you can make a lot of money in parts, and the money is there to be made. It's just how people are focusing on it, and whether they're understanding how to focus that it's not just a part, right? So as a technician now, of course, you want the right parts at all times. You want it to fit right, you want it to work right, and you don't want it to come back. Because that, as a technician, that's how you get scaled upon, right? So how many comebacks you've had, meaning whether the part that you installed was installed incorrect or it wasn't right. Sometimes it's not your fault. Sometimes it's the part's fault, but they're always going to come back to the technician of who installed it. So as being in service and being part of the whole parts and service, customers are way more now inclined of what's going on. They can jump on the computer and figure out where this part's supposed to go, or what it's supposed to look like, and how long it's supposed to take to get it fit into my car. So why are you charging me X amount of dollars when the guy on YouTube is doing it in 30-second video? Yeah. How is that possible? You're charging me 2 hours, right? So those are the conversations we always have with customers to try to explain to them that it's not just the guy on YouTube. It's, these are trained factory technicians working on your vehicle with authorized OEM parts, meaning parts that will fix your vehicle, that was made for your car, that's going to get you back on the road safely.
Definitely. Because I've interviewed a lot of technicians in my previous videos, and they all express the same thing, that they have to be trained in how to have the actual part fitted, right? And knowing that they have to do it in a very safe manner, and their what do you call it now? Their career is actually is on it, because when they're working on that vehicle, so to speak, right? You don't know who is actually driving that car, whether it's someone's daughter, someone's children, wife, even a husband, or it's a family-oriented vehicle. So every vehicle has to be taken into consideration where safety is concerned, and that is where the dealership and most shops, so to speak, try to take pride in ensuring that safety is first and paramount, right? And that is why technicians get trained.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The benefit of going back to a dealership setting is that technician, what he's been trained on is your car. He's been trained on that type of vehicle. He's been qualified to work on that type of vehicle. You go into a independent shop, they're working on every type of vehicle on the road. So you kind of have to have a mindset in, okay, if I'm going to this independent shop, he might not know completely everything about my vehicle or how my vehicle reacts, because he's working on every vehicle on the road. It's impossible for anybody to know that. Right? So those are the benefits of going back to the dealership and saying, hey, I know the guy that's going to be touching my car. This is what he does day in and day out. And when I leave here, I know I'm leaving with my car being safe, and I can have my family back in the vehicle because I'm at whatever manufacturer dealerships that I'm at.
Yeah, definitely. But let's speak more about your career itself. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced while working in the industry?
In the industry, I spent, I would say, my majority of time in parts.
Okay.
The reason for that is I felt parts is just like the heartbeat is what I felt. And I still feel that way, that in every department, anything and everything flows through parts. And if you look at how it's situated in a dealership format, they kind of take parts and they throw it at the back of the dealership.
Oh yeah, the parts department is always taken advantage of. It's the department that no one looks at, and they don't because a lot of people, they're ignorant to the process that takes place in the parts department. I know because I'm speaking from experience, right? But every dealership I've been through, it's the same thing. But at the same time, they don't understand that most, if not all, and the biggest profit actually comes from parts.
You're absolutely right. If you look at simple examples, if you look at your expense for service, you have technicians, you have service advisors, you have valet drivers, you have your demo vehicles, you have your valet vehicles, you have the overall expenses of tools in the shop, the airlines, the hose, all those kind of things. So service expense is tremendous.
Yeah, it is always high.
Right?
Yeah.
Their GP level is about 75% of the dealership, but it's only that high because their expense is that high.
Mm-hmm.
You look at parts expense, the most expense you're going to have in parts is your inventory.
Inventory, yeah,
It's not your personnel.
the holding cost, yeah.
That's right. It's not your employees that you have in there, because the majority of dealerships will have maybe 2 to 3 parts personnel and a manager, or maybe in my case, it's myself and somebody else. So right now we're running on 2. So in that type of situation, your expense for salary is not much. Your expense for inventory, your holding expense is where your money is, but that's also where your profit is.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's your profit in the dealership is where you're trying to hold a 30% profit.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're trying to hold. That's what the industry market right now. Everybody's shooting for the 35% rating. It's very tough.
Yeah. And I know it's tough for North America, but in some regions, the gross profit is as much as 48%. That's how high it is. Yeah. That's how high it can be, between 45, 48%. Yeah.
Of course, you can do that in certain regions where you're the only one. When you come into a major city, as I am right now, you come into a major city.
You are correct. Yeah.
Where there is 5 competing dealerships within maybe a 20-minute radius from you.
Yeah.
Your margins drop tremendously.
Tremendously. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're constantly competing. Customers are constantly doing that. You're constantly competing because you want the customers to come back to you. And it gets to a point where it's not, you can't just, okay, this is what I try to do. It's not trying to get the best price. It's trying to get the best service. You have to get them to trust you. You have to get them to understand that anytime you come to me, I might not give you the best price, but I'm going to give you the correct part that's going to fix your car. I'm going to give you the best experience. I might give you something a little extra, or ask you how you're getting it done, where you're getting it done, and bring them into the dealership in a way where, if you have this part that you're just buying at the front counter and you're taking it somewhere else to have it installed, why not have it installed by a licensed technician?
Yeah.
Why not have it installed at our place? What's the reason? And a lot of times, I think front counter parts advisors are very hesitant. They're very scared to ask certain questions. They're like, oh, the guy's going to get upset. No, he's not going to get upset.
No.
He's going to start thinking, you know what? This guy is right. I'm here already. If I'm able to give him a 10% on it, forget the 10% that you're losing, but imagine the customer retention and what you're doing for that customer that's going to make him tell his neighbor and the other neighbor and the other neighbor on his street and be like, listen, I went here and these guys are so great and I bought this part and I was going to leave, but then they told me, hey, I can get it installed. I get a 10% off. They installed it correctly. I didn't have to guess. And I was good.
Yeah, because and that's where experience comes in, because a lot of people don't know how to build customer relations. That's basically what it boils down to. Customer relations actually leads to customer retention. Customer retention increases your customer service index. Customer service index, actually, when that increases, then it transforms into your absorption rate, which again is more profitability for the business. But not a lot of people at our level will understand what transcends. But
I'm glad you're doing something like this. I'm glad you're doing something like this to show everybody that this is how they should start thinking about this. It's not just, oh, that's the parts guy at the back. It's, wait a second, that's the guy that's making a lot of money for the dealership. That's the guy that's going to help me. That's the guy that's taking care of all the accounting issues, the service issues, the technician issues, the sales issues, the accessories issue. So it's not just, oh, that's just the parts guy.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you're doing this to show people out there that it shouldn't be just looked at that. It should be somewhere where if you're in the industry and you're in parts, you should be proud.
Yeah.
And you should be happy that this industry, as much as they try to take over everything with computers and they try to take over everything with robots, this is an industry that you're not going to be able to replace the physical people there, they might try, and maybe that's the directions we're going in. But they might try. But I just feel it's going to be a long time before they.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very long time because not everyone can cover all aspects of what a dealership actually handles, right? So it's very difficult. You can go on a site and look for a car and try to buy, but at the end of the day, you have to deal with someone who's actually going to give you the correct car, because you don't know what you're buying when you're looking at a screen. Absolutely not. You need to go somewhere and look at the vehicle physically, right? And then you have to have a technician to, whether it's a precondition, the used car or something off the lot, right? You need a technician to actually go through the car and say, yes, it's good to go, right? So you need that aspect of it. So like I said, thank you very much, because this is one of the reasons why I actually have this show, for persons to understand exactly what takes place within a dealership setting, not only a dealership, but also a small garage, what their experiences are, right? And even the person who operates from his own home, he can actually tell you exactly what ramifications there is when dealing with your motor vehicle itself. So everyone within the industry actually plays their part, right? So on that note, what I wanted to ask you, my next question is, what would be some of your suggestions for dealerships and garages on a wider scale going forward?
Moving forward, one of the biggest challenges that the entire industry is going to be facing very soon is electric. Everybody is moving towards electric. Everybody's moving towards saving the ozone layer and saving all these different things that comes with having a motor vehicle on the road, whether it's a car, truck, coach, bus, whatever the case is. Now, my suggestion to people in the industry is, if we're looking at making things faster, easier to work with, less expensive, I think the first thing we need to look at is the personnel that you're putting in front of these things, the people that are going to be handling and supporting you. I think having proper training, having proper after training, not just the first time around, having a little bit of more support and explaining to your employees of what the vision is, what's happening. Don't just throw them in there and say, hey, this is what we're doing, and have a nice day.
It all boils down to leadership. You have to,
and it does.
You have to sell the vision, the values. It's very important. Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest takeaway that I've gotten from over my entire career so far and moving forward is, if you don't believe in your own vision, and then you're going to try to put it on other people to believe it, it's not going to happen. So as dealer principals out there, as vice principals, as all the other manufacturer head honchos, the sales manager, you have to believe in your vision first, and before you can send it off to your employees. And then don't go back on them and be crucifying them if they don't do something correct, if you did not explain it properly and did not communicate your vision to them properly. Right. And I think that goes for a lot of industries, not just automotive, but just in general, any personnel that's in the managerial aspect of the business, or whatever business that you're in. You have to have vision, a goal, what you're here for, what are you going for, what's your mission, and then explain it to your employees. Without your employees, you're nothing.
You need people to drive the process. That's basically what it is. And that's one of the reasons why Toyota is so far ahead, because they have their principles in which they follow, and their two pillars are respect for people and continuous improvement. But that's another story altogether itself. Not a lot of people would understand basically how those two pillars actually drive the processes. But just to follow through is basically, so how should we prepare for every change in market?
Coming down to employees and having the correct people in place. I think that's what we need to work on. So working with your product presenters, working with your frontline employees.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I think my push would be, is working with your frontline employees. So getting them caught up with what's going on right now in the industry.
Yeah.
So when they're because customers right now are very, very conscious on what's happening, especially what's recently happened in the year and a half now. People have time to been at home, realize that, hey, if I'm working at home, I don't need a car. So that complete changed the whole aspect of everything.
Yeah.
And then all these car manufacturers have improved their vehicle so that the maintenance schedules are longer now. So you don't see that customer anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You see them once a year and then that's it.
Yeah.
Right. So for going back to your question, I would say is working on your front line. How, when you're in the dealership, how does this benefit our customer? If the person answering the phone doesn't know what they're talking about, the customer is going to feel, well, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Right. I've got to teach the guy that's on the phone about his product. He should be teaching me about the product. So for the overall is training and having processes in place.
Yeah.
That's the main focus. And that's where I think a lot of people lack, because everybody assumes if you have a process and you follow it 1, 2, 3, that's how they taught you to count in school. You go 1, 2, 3. You don't go 1, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Right. So you follow the process. That's the breakdown that almost every dealership business has all the time. Is process breakdown. So if we're able to work with process, and that's one of the main thing, I think Toyota and you know how much they've taught me. I think that was that's what I took away from them was they're process driven, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah. And that is why one of the things they have is they have a compliance officer who actually documents the process, and they go through and they do everything step by step and do time and motion study and time management study, and then look at it to see exactly how are they going to improve on each process, cut out the fats where lean comes in to see exactly they're going to eliminate waste, right? So it's a lot of things that a lot of people don't understand exactly why they're so far ahead, and then you can actually use their principles and adapt it to other businesses, right? Not only the dealership setting, because I've used it when I went into retail, and I went into the distribution as well, and I was able to use a lot of Toyota's processes, and then it actually worked. But that's another story itself, right?
I got one step further. I use it sometimes at home because instead of doing something and you're walking back and forth, you stop and you think about it and be like, why don't I just pick up the box and take the box closer to where I'm working?
Yeah.
Instead of walking back and forth or
back and forth,
the tools back and forth, why don't I just take it to it? So you kind of apply all those things. Some of the stuff for some people might be like, oh, that's common sense. If I'm working over here, I'll take my tools over here, but not for everybody.
No.
Right. And this is go again back to process. If you're doing stuff, you need to understand fully what you're doing and then create a process and move with it. I do it at home. I try it at home all the time.
Yeah. It can basically work everywhere. That's why they always say sometimes we just need to get back to basics. That's basically what it is, right? So Okay, yeah, I just restarted it. Okay. Um, what I want to do is to go back little when you mentioned
Yes.
when I want to go back little when you mentioned electric vehicles, because remember where we're coming from. We have carburetors, right? We had points and
Right.
condensers, then we have direct fuel injection. Right? And then
We've come a
yeah,
long way.
and then we went to hybrid. And no, we're not even talking about hybrid anymore. We're talking about electric now. So imagine we are going leaps and bounds, but every step of the way, we have to be retraining, we have to be communicating, we have to be looking at the different processes. Now, if not most, if not all the manufacturers are racing ahead of some, even gone as much more further than others, trying to get that
space.
Yeah.
Right. They're trying to go to space.
No, they're going to space, right? So they're trying to see exactly who can deliver the next best thing to the customers, right? But how do we see ourselves, maneuvering this electric phenomenon?
It is going to be a whirlwind, because everybody wants to believe that their concept of their electric is the best, and which is perfectly fine. At the same time, there's going to be trial and error, and that's how we got so far we are now. Without trial and error, we wouldn't have gotten this far. So obviously there's a couple companies out there that have made it very well, and they're doing very well right now. And let's say the biggest thing that I think that we're going to have a problem with is training, is new generation coming in, older generation that don't want to be trained, don't want this new technology. Right. And to get them to understand that, the next level for them is, they quit because they don't want to.
Yeah.
There's an old saying that, a mechanic is, it's just a parts changer. Well, nowadays you can't have that anymore. If that's what you think in your head that a technician is, or a mechanic is just a parts changer, it's no longer like that. This industry has changed so much where you have to be able to know how to read and write correctly and comprehend what you're reading and writing, because the majority of the vehicles are all electronic. So the first thing you do, the first step you do is you have to plug it in. Take your computer, your manufacturer computer, you plug it in, and you have to read out all the results of what's going on with the vehicle. Now, moving into electric, it's even more so, because now instead of you fixing a part, you're going to be doing an update. You're going to be doing a software update instead of fixing that part. There's no part. It's a motherboard that maybe has a glitch in it, just like your computer.
One could challenge that passion though, because what I've heard from my previous interviews is that not a lot of people are coming into the industry, like apprentices. They're having a tough time getting apprentices into the dealerships, right?
Very, very, very difficult.
Yeah, but what could we do? What are the solutions, right? Or do we have to try to market this industry some more? Try to sell it to let them know, look, there is a future in being a mechanic.
So everybody, a lot of the new generation coming in, they're all tech savvy. Very, very tech savvy, more than what we were before back in the days, because we didn't need it as much, but now you need it. And the generation coming up now, they have it. And that's the biggest issue I find that we have in all the dealerships, is that the old generation is trying to fight the new generation because they're not doing it the way they know how to do it. But we can't do that, because this is what we have to work with. We don't have all these X amount of technicians knocking on our door. We don't have all these apprentices. We don't have the schools or the universities offering these courses anymore, because there's no demand for it. So if there's no demand for it, that tells you right off the bat, we don't have any people that are coming up. So you have to grow your own. Meaning, if you have somebody in the dealership that's a technician in, a wash bay employee that just washes cars all day long, well, why can't you maybe ask him if he wants to be a technician? Well, ask if he wants to be an apprentice. Sign them up, show them the benefits. And the benefits lies, they like computers. Well, guess what? That's where we're heading. All these new generation, they love computers. So if we're heading in that direction, that's how we need to market it. And let them know and explain to them, hey, listen, you're good on the computers, you like computers, you like playing video games. Okay. Well, the same concept applies here. All those, not so much gaming aspect, but all their knowledge of how the computer works and how they're able to fix what they're working on the computer. It's going to be the same aspect going forward in our generation, in this new generation of electric vehicles. And I think that's why we need to market it. And we have to work with them because we don't have this whole field of people coming up.
Yeah.
It's very, 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 we don't even have, let me see, I'm in the industry now, and our biggest, when the kids were at school and they were in automotive shop, so they're in automotive shop and they want to do their co-op, kids would be knocking on our door. Can I do co-op with you guys? Can I do co-op? Can I do co-op? Everybody wanted to come in a dealership and do co-op and be hands-on and learn and get dirty and all this kind of stuff. It's no longer like that. We're calling the schools now and asking them, hey, is there anybody in the shop class that wants to come in?
Yeah.
We never used to have to call them. Now we're calling them, asking them if they've got anybody. And they're like, no, sorry, that class is no longer a auto shop class. They pointed with, maybe woodworking. So now it's cut in half. And then the other schools or college, they've made it into a small engine course. So it's no longer an automotive course, it's a small engine course.
Small engine course, yeah.
So people looking to get into this industry, and if you want to get into a dealership, sign up for the apprenticeship program, go to school. The dealership will pay for you to go to school and you learn about that particular manufactured vehicle, whether it's Honda, Acura, whether it's Toyota, Nissan, whatever the case is. That's how you need to approach. You have to show them their worth. Yeah, you have to show them their worth to this industry, because this is what we have now and we have to work with it. And the amount of times you try to fight it, you're just going to end up losing people, and then you're going to be left with nobody.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Thanks for that, because that is one of the biggest outcry right now. Not a lot of people getting into the industry itself, and not only for apprentices for the service side, but I mean for other aspects of the industry as well, because you have service writers, service advisors coming in, and they have to be trained from scratch. Right? All these younger generation coming in, parts is just the same. You're not getting the experienced persons cross trekking from dealership to dealership anymore. Once they go to one dealership, they don't like it, they say, you know what, I'm out. They just call it a day, and then they move on and they switch profession altogether. So the industry itself, what can we do to try to make it viable to those persons? That's one of the biggest challenges we're looking at right now. So I don't know.
And that's the biggest question, right? How can we have our industry to continuously grow, right? And let's go back one step. Let's look at, what do they have in schools for kids to say, hey, I want to be a parts guy. What's a parts guy? So in my time, there was a course. It was called Inventory Control Management.
Mm.
And inventory control management is where they showed you how one part and how many steps it takes before that one part gets from point A to point B.
But that's not a standalone course. If I could recall, that course is offered at the university level, but it's like an elective part of a major course.
They don't offer it anymore.
Well, yeah.
They don't offer anymore, right? So if we want, do they offer anything for being a service advisor? Do they offer anything of being a parts advisor? Do they offer anything of being a salesperson? What they offer is sales course, and you can get into sales course, you can get into sales in general.
Yeah.
But they do offer a lot for being a technician, especially now coming up. They know the way the industry is swaying towards. We just need to figure out a way and get kids into these courses.
Yeah. Yeah. If we don't, we may be looking at not only dealerships will be hustling for the same people. That's basically what's going to happen in the industry right now. We're just going to be hustling, and then it's going to be a cycle all over again. You're just going to have the same people moving from one dealership to the other. That's basically where we're going to go, right? But in closing, Naz, and I want to thank you very much for this interview. It's really an eye opener based on some of the things that I've been trying to get across, and you have touched some very important points. Of course, those are some of the things that needs to be said. But what will be your suggestions for persons? What would be your encouragement to get people into the industry? What would you say to them?
I say it's a fun industry. It is a fun industry. If you love cars, if you have a vision of when you were small and you wanted to look at your Hot Wheels and say, hey, how does this wheel turn? How does this paint job happen? How does this work out? You need to get into the industry. The industry is an industry that's going to surpass a lot of other industries. And the reason I say that is because you always are going to need a personnel to put that part on your car. You're going to need a technician. You're going to need to speak to people face to face to explain to them what's going on with your car, what's happening. It's not always going to be, hey, let me just plug it in and the car is going to tell me what's going on. No, it's going to be on that person who's driving the vehicle, speaking to another live person, a real person, explaining to them what's happened. And this industry, the best part of this industry, here it is. This is how we're going to close it. The best part of this industry, you'll never go to work and do the same thing every day.
Every day. Yeah, that is so true. Every day it's a new adventure. Yeah.
If you want to go to work and punch in numbers all day long and do the same thing all day long and sit in your cubicle where there's nothing wrong with that all day long, this is not for you. But if you want something exciting and go to work every single day and every single day is different, well, you know what? Turn the page because this is for you.
Yeah.
100%.
100%. Of course. Naz, thank you very much. I really appreciated you taking the time out to explain all of this. And I hear the passion. I know you're passionate about it. And this is one of the avenues I'm using. So by all means, if you have more persons would want to join the show, let me get the word out for them to let them know that the automotive industry it will always be here, right? It will never go anywhere, right? If you look at Canadian Tire is what, over 100 years old?
Over 100 years old. And I'll tell you something really fast before we leave here, really fast, just to show you why it's 100 years old and why they're always going to be around. Okay, there's software from 1993 and prior to that. Okay, there's software that they use up to this day is the same software, because you can go on the screen, you can go on the Canadian Tire, and it's exact same software that it gets updated, but the overall look and the way the software is run the exact same way from 1993, because I've spent 7 years of my life with them. So, and it's been the same. So they always go back to, if it's not broken, why change it?
Change it. Yeah. They just update it and keep updating and keep updating and innovate and keep updating. That is all. Whatever they need to get done, they just make an update for it. It's simple.
They want to know where a part is on a shelf. It's been the same way. You put in the part number and it tells you where it is on the shelf. You don't need nothing fancy.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the gist of this whole thing. Sometimes we have to take a step back and look at our basics, and the basics will come down to it's your people. If you're able to talk, respect, and show people, what your dreams are, what your goal is, people will follow you.
Of course. I always go back to the two pillars: respect for people, continuous improvement. So Naz, thank you again. And it has been fun. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted. Remember to rate and review this podcast and share it with your friends. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you're leaving with a better understanding of the individuals who work in the auto industry. Until next time.